Story 1. A woman being born with good looks does not impress me. Attracts me, yes, because I am a straight man, but it does not impress me. What is there to be impressed by? I am sure straight and bisexual women would feel the same way about men they find good-looking. There is nothing impressive about winning the life lottery in good looks. Story 2. Many attractive women can have unpleasant personalities. Once the belief that attractive women are always wonderful was challenged, it became easier to understand reality. Story 3. It was not an age. Rather, it was a realization over time that we are all just flesh bags with brain computers trying to find our way through the world. With that realization, the blinders came off, and I started seeing them as actual people instead of potential prizes to be won. They are a lot less impressive when you realize that their lives are no different from yours or mine. Story 4. Perhaps in my teenage years, you get to know some people and realize they are just people. Good looks are like special effects in a Hollywood blockbuster. Scratch the surface, and a lot of the time, there is not much underneath. Story 5. In high school, I was led on for a while before she started seeing someone else. Then she ended things with that guy after she asked to go to prom with someone else, and he was not cool with it. All things considered, I think I was the lucky one. Story 6. I still notice and enjoy attractive qualities but realized around age 50 that in a long-term marriage, looks fade, so there must be substance to support the relationship. After dating in my 50s, I learned that 99% of divorced women aged 40 to 60 lack substance, having relied only on their looks. When their looks faded, their husbands left. Most of these women still acted entitled and expected men my age to treat them like royalty, even though they no longer had looks, lacked substance, and contributed very little to a relationship that a 50-year-old man would want. The truth is, a man in his 50s is at the height of his earning capability and can attract women in their 30s to early 40s consistently. I found one who still had looks and also had substance, and we have been happily married for 10 years. Story 7. Never. I will always notice and appreciate an attractive woman, but I learned very early on that looks alone are nowhere near enough for a relationship of any kind. Story 8. When they openly take advantage of the fact that they look good and glorify it with a queen mentality while being okay with hurting any man who does not fit their idea of who they want to be with at that time. Story 9. Once I had children, over the last 4 years or so, I am 36 now. What I look for in a woman goes far beyond her looks. Heavy makeup, provocative clothing, sass, all that nonsense means nothing. I am a conservative woman with traditional traits. Reserved, light on makeup, no social media, and a nurturer by nature. Story 10. Honestly, I do not recall being impressed by that before. Probably happened. I just do not recall. It certainly no longer happens. Story 11. I am good from my point of view. I am not impressed by pretty women, but I am impressed by women who take care of themselves. They work out, drink water, and have a clean girl aesthetic. Takes a lot of work. Story 12. I think my eyes stopped forming heart shapes, and I no longer involuntarily say awooga, since I hit my head in 1997. Then again, it might be the medication. I believe the last time was in high school. I have never had stage fright, so talking to someone was not out of reach. I just wasn't interested because I knew they did not find me attractive, and I found little in common with them. Therefore, I kept a polite smile and answered questions to the best of my ability. I kept it tidy and professional. Story 13. I grew up with attractive relatives and saw how guys reacted to them. Imagine having a sister who you think is unattractive, but every man is infatuated with her. That being said, I still found some girls intimidatingly attractive, as in hard to approach without reason. But I feel I had an advantage seeing the average attractive girl for what she is, a normal person. Story 14:25 because often that is the only thing they have going for them. No personality and a me mentality. Story 15. I would find the question, at what age did you start getting impressed by women who were not conventionally attractive? At this point in my life, it feels like being attractive really does not build character the way being non-attractive does. Story 16. I still admire a pretty woman's beauty, but that doesn't mean she is worth much. While my mind is excited, The rest of me remains calm because she is just as likely to be a bad person as anyone else. Story 17. I will always be impressed by beautiful women, based on beauty alone. Most of the attractive people I have dated were the least attractive individuals I have ever met. Story 18. That is a good question, maybe early to mid-30s, especially once you start realizing they can be pretty but have one of the worst personalities around. Story 19. Looks are nice, but they have absolutely no correlation to being a good compatible partner or relationship success. Too many people focus on looks first and try to figure out the rest later. It's like a nice painting. Remember, they are human beings with flaws and baggage. We all notice beautiful people, but that's it. Admire them, then move on. There is being alone, and there is being in a toxic relationship. It is worth remembering both are difficult. Story 20. Late 20s to early 30s. I also communicate with them much better, especially if they are younger. I understand why younger women sometimes prefer older men. Story 21. Pretty women still impress me, but a lot less than before. But maybe 27. When a really pretty woman I was with at the time treated me poorly and cheated on me. I didn't think about her behavior until after the fact. I guess I was blinded by her beauty. Story 22. Attractive women do not typically partner with unattractive men unless the men are extremely wealthy. For example, observe the occupants of the Oval Office. Story 23. Not yet, but I am able to focus more on the mind now, rather than just the attractiveness. Of course, my wife will disagree with me, as she knows she is beautiful and it is what attracted me to her in the first place. Story 24. I do not think I ever was. I had low self-esteem and was more focused on being good enough for anyone. Story 25. I do not know if it was age, excessive access to pornography, seeing hundreds of women while working in retail, or the discouraging rise of form-fitting yoga pants and leggings, but I became pretty jaded about 4 years ago at 58. Story 26. Admiring beauty is different from being impressed. Our subconscious seeks beauty as a precursor to good genes. That is why we are more attracted to symmetry, and many living things are as well. Story 27. I have never been impressed. I am 23 years old and heterosexual, but I have never really been interested in anyone. This is probably due to some personal issues from the past. Story 28. It only shatters when she opens her mouth and behaves poorly or shows actions that are unkind to people. Story 29. Women with good looks have attracted me but have not impressed me. I think from a very early point, around the age of 20, I started not focusing solely on looks. I dated a drop-dead gorgeous girl at the time, but apart from looks, we had literally nothing in common. Additionally, I found out quickly that she had a huge entitlement complex. I wasn't entirely surprised. She grew up pretty, and guys would bend over backwards for her. From then on, it wasn't really just about looks. At the time, she was interested in me, and to use a friend's quote, I owed it to the inner child in me. I never fed him. Story 30. Pretty would lose its luster faster than beautiful. I cannot imagine not being impressed by a beautiful woman. Beautiful means inside and out. Story 31. Before I was even able to date, I realized I would never get the magazine bombshell I wanted and was ignored by the beautiful blonde near me. This probably set me up for the best, allowing me to appreciate women who do not look traditionally magazine beautiful. Story 32. I never stopped appreciating attractive people. But around the age of 23, I realized that the only advantage attractive people have is that they are more pleasant to look at. Every person is a mix of traits, and very few of those traits are correlated. Being intelligent does not necessarily mean you are interesting. Being flirtatious does not mean you are skilled in relationships. Being attractive does not always mean being confident. Each person must be assessed based on their various qualities. Being attractive does not mean they are worth talking to, much less dating. It is nice that someone is attractive, but it does not mean that much. Story 33. I think this will never entirely stop until my hormones decrease. Last week, I met somebody who was very beautiful and graceful. I was very taken by her, but I did not lose my ability to be myself or speak as I would have in the past. She looked like Kelsey Aspill but younger, taller, and Dutch. Story 34. When I realized that some of the most attractive women are also some of the most challenging, I had to set firm boundaries. A woman may be more attractive than the surface of the sun, but you have to watch for the cracks that can appear and be strong enough to cut them off if they arise. It is easier to keep yourself safe before you take action than after. Story 35. I think I will always be impressed, but it no longer means anything to me. As I get older, the hot crazy matrix seems more accurate. Story 36. I think it is relative to age. As a child, you are impressed by anything new, but as you get older, things become more mundane and usual. That being said, I would say by the time I was a freshman in high school. Story 37. I am definitely attracted to attractive women, but those who are in great shape impress me much more than before, especially when you see a well-developed back. However, those who use performance-enhancing drugs often look unusual. Story 38. I don't know, like 7? I don't really rate from 1 to 10. For me, it's kind of just cute or not cute. Appearances do matter in day-to-day life, so I have to think about what that might mean for any given person. They don't matter that much, though, so that's a low-priority train of thought. I mostly only think about it for 2 to 5 minutes, and mostly just when asked. Story 39. I would not say impressed is exactly what I would call it, but regardless, age was not the determining factor. It was after I was severely burned by being with one. Since then, I have encountered other attractive women. One who comes to mind was actually stunningly beautiful, but it does not have as much of an effect on me because there is now a part of me that always whispers, but she could be a monster. Story 40. I am 61 and still impressed by pretty women, but you learn that, like everyone else, they have flaws too. Story 41. I am not impressed by attractive women. I am naturally drawn to their appearance and will want to start a conversation with an attractive woman first. However, if the connection is not right, I do not care about looks. Conversely, the woman who attracted me the most in my life was not attractive, but had a personality that fully captured me. Story 42. Never, but the bar for beauty goes up. I can pretty much ignore the girls rated under 8 out of 10. The girls rated 8, 9, and 10 still make me nervous when they are in summer attire. Story 43. I used to think they were ethereal beings with values and morals to match their angelic looks. After 36 years and going through a traumatic experience with one, I realized they can be unpleasant. In fact, if I were born with looks good enough to influence others with my halo effect, I would use it for far better purposes than what I have seen most do with it. That disappoints me the most. Story 44. At age 16, I was a nerd with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The popular girls at my high school treated me poorly when they were not trying to play jokes on me. I admire beautiful women and have married one. However, when a woman approaches and starts talking, I immediately wonder why and what the catch is. Story 45. I say you need to be with a top quality partner at least once in your life, but then you realize most of them lack personality. It's fun, and as far as I'm concerned, as long as you are single, keep trying to go after the most attractive. But as soon as I know we aren't meant for each other, it took me until age 31 to finally be able to walk away like it's nothing. There really are plenty of fish in the sea. They may be attractive, but so are literally thousands of women. Story 46. I've always been impressed by a beautiful woman who matches my preferences. When I was younger, I did not control myself like I do now. However, I am not completely impressed by just a pretty woman. She must have a personality that I enjoy. Finding this combination is important, and now I can be impressed. I am also happily married and loyal. Story 47. I was more shy around attractive women when I was young. After I turned about 30, I was able to treat them the same as anyone else. Story 48. When I was 15, 2 very attractive girls took me to the pool. Since then, my perspective on pretty girls changed. Now, I always imagine girls without makeup, and I cannot undo it. Story 49. I will let you know when I get there. Do not allow them to control my actions, though. That friendly customer service agent will get cursed just as quickly as the unfriendly one. Not that I have a chance with them anyway. Story 50. Being married helps. There is only one attractive woman I need to worry about. I could not care less about the rest. Story 51. I was 16 when I hooked up with a very attractive woman, and she was terrible in bed. Throughout my life, I realized that the prettier the woman, usually the worse the sex is. This could just be anecdotal, but I started caring more about body type and energy. Story 52. I took testosterone throughout my 20s and abruptly stopped. At about 29, I could admire women, but that wow factor disappeared. Even now that my hormones are balanced, I don't care as much anymore. I can observe and appreciate it, but before, I idolized it. I prefer it this way. Story 53. I still very much appreciate a pretty woman, but my days of being impressed, in that I no longer assume they are out of my league, are long gone. I did not figure that out until my 30s, though. Story 54. I'm not sure why, but as I get older, I am attracted to a curvy woman with a pretty face. Instagram model types started turning me off at about age 30 to 35, I think. Story 55. It's not that I am not impressed. It's more that I can see past that and recognize how ugly they are inside based on how they act or treat others. Story 56. I am still impressed by attractive women. I am just not impressed by vain attractive women, or vain men. Story 57. I don't really recall. Probably somewhere in my mid-20s. Ironically, the sooner you learn to stop fawning over attractive women, the sooner you become more attractive to them. I have seen the look in an attractive woman's eyes shift when she realizes, through conversation with me, that I am not going to treat her any differently than any other woman. More often than not, it seems to turn them on. Story 58. Although I can find someone stunning, it takes more than that to impress me. I lived with 3 stunningly beautiful and exceptionally intelligent women growing up, so it takes more than being pretty to impress me. I need more than visualization to stimulate my libido. Story 59. I think it happened pretty suddenly when I had a child. So around age 33, her mother and I broke up during the pregnancy. After I got over the breakup, I found myself nowhere near as interested or impressed by women as I used to be. Suddenly, attention from women became a low priority, and seeing a beautiful woman no longer caused butterflies in my stomach. Couldn't care less. It's almost like my biological drive to be a father had been fulfilled, and so now women lost their appeal. I always wanted to be a dad. Looking back, I think that was the main reason I chased relationships. I wanted that classic family. Now I am a dad. I love being a dad. I don't need a woman anymore, so they don't impress me like they used to. I still love women. I'm not bitter. I'm just not as moved by the sight of a beautiful woman as I used to be. Story 60. Around age 30, I got a job at an advertising agency where almost all employees were in their 20s or 30s, and most were women. The agency had a habit of hiring young people fresh out of college working their first career-level job, or hiring former freelancers who had been self-employed but could not maintain a client base, so they ended up working for a stable paycheck and benefits. At that time, working at an advertising agency was considered a glamorous job that attracted many attractive people. I learned not to trust looks alone, because too often that was what some relied on as their main contribution. They were good with clients, but the actual work still had to be done by someone. This was true of both men and women. That was also the age when I reached a level of career and confidence that allowed me to date some of these women. I learned to appreciate mature, responsible women who take care of themselves more than younger or less mature women who rely on being cute or attractive to get what they want or where they want to go in life. I also learned that for some professional women, being attractive was sometimes a handicap they had to work hard to downplay. I gained a lot of respect for professional women from working closely with women like that. Story 61. I do not think I will ever stop being impressed by attractive women. However, age has made me care less. Story 62. When they have all used and abused me for whatever reason they came up with, it took about 15 years after dating them, including the one I married. Story 63. When I got old enough to realize that after intimacy, I would still have to deal with the challenges. Intimacy lasts about 20 minutes to a few hours once a week or so. At this point, being with attractive women could cause my wife to leave, so that adds an extra reason to just view them as people who were blessed by genetics. Story 64. Attractive women are beyond my level. When people are beyond my level, I automatically stop caring about them. Story 65. I feel like this is happening to me right now. I appreciate attractive women for sure, but I don't have that amazing feeling as much. I look and move on. Story 66. Once you stop caring how attractive they are and treat everyone with the same kindness and respect, life gets better. Story 67. Since I was 13, most people were shallow, and other than their physical appearance, they didn't have anything of value beyond how easy they were to be with. After a while, I met some who were attractive and had a bit of intellect, but still mostly relied on their looks. They became boring quickly because, beyond some basic knowledge, they lacked critical thinking skills or depth. They got offended easily, making interaction difficult. Those with intellect, depth, and presence were the best. A master of none but a jack of all trades is best. I've met a few like that, but they were already committed, so I didn't push further. I wouldn't want karma to catch up with me. With these, you can have good conversations, a tolerance for reasonable offense, and a body to admire. I just need to find someone who has all three. Easier said than done, but I mostly stick to those from foreign nations since they seem to have these qualities more than the women from my home country so far. Story 68. For me, it was like my testosterone depleted exponentially when I hit 35. When I was between 27 and 31, not only did I notice them, my mind also came up with incredible opening lines that sometimes impressed me with their effectiveness. I landed a threesome with 2 kissing girls just because I was interested in the tomboy, and I was really honest with her. After 35, I started to crave meaningful conversations, paying zero attention to attention seekers. In my mind, when I notice one, a voice in my head just says, cute. Like those thoughts when you see a kid do cute things, and I go on with my business. Story 69. I am no longer fooled by traditionally attractive girls. I can tune it out better, but I am probably still incredibly susceptible to alternative girls with worn clothes and dark makeup. Story 70. Probably 25. Pretty looks are cool, but what is really impressive is if you can hold a conversation better than a brick wall. Story 71. In my mid to late 20s, I had just finished medical school and moved back to my home country to practice. When I realized I could have almost any woman I wanted without putting in any effort, I stopped being impressed by just a pretty face or a nice figure. I still wanted those things, but they were no longer enough to attract me. Now, at 35, I am married to a breathtakingly gorgeous woman who stimulates my mind and my passions and motivates me to be better every day. I would not have it any other way. Story 72. Like another poster said, your word usage is incorrect. I do not believe anyone is impressed by an attractive woman. They may be attracted to her, but not impressed. Impressing me requires you to actually do something. Story 73. I was never impressed by vanity in women. I would rather get to know someone, maybe even her brother, instead. Story 74. I saw this video about attractive Korean women, but it did not appeal to me. Honestly, I no longer care for attractive women. Story 75. I will let you know when that happens. Truly, pretty women are not common. So when you see one, it is a thing to behold. Sure, she is probably unpleasant and would not give me the time of day, but it is still nice to look. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.